Hi, this is part two of In Order to Defeat Darkness, we do not need strength, we need light. So, yeah, we don't need physical strength to defeat the darkness. We need the light of compassion, the light of unconditional love that holds space for people so that they know that in our energy field, they have a place where they can put down their sorrow, where they can feel their frustration without judgment, without being told to toughen up or to just get over themselves and move on. You know what I'm saying? Because unfortunately, a lot of people were raised like that, and it's what's true, ne, is that these traumas, this pain, this sorrow, these frustrations are often things that we carry from childhood, and when you're holding space for people, you don't have to be with them physically, you don't even have to know them, but you can hold space for people in your heart by just having the intention that, my creator, my guardian angels, spiritual control center in the consciousness realm, you know, I seek your assistance to hold space for everyone on planet Earth who needs to heal. Just having that intention and dedicating space in your heart, in your mind, for those people who need to heal creates in the spiritual realm those types of pockets of healing, and it's amazing because people will feel suddenly peace and the ability to shed tears, to feel their pain and to move through it. It's not to wallow in your pain, but sometimes you need to wallow. Healing is not fancy and cute and sexy at all. That's why it's not promoted in its reality by most spiritual practitioners. You hardly find space for healing in a lot of religious institutions that are all over the place in the world today because it's messy. It requires you to express anger. There's a lot of anger that comes with healing because you have been done dirty. You know what I'm saying? And so you're gonna be pissed off about it and you're gonna have to express that anger. Doesn't mean you have to cry and scream and throw things, but you're not going to be love and light. It's all great all the time. I'm so happy. All no. There's times when you have to be sad because you're sad. That's being authentic. And so when you hold space for people, for them to be able to be their authentic selves, that is part of healing. When you come in contact with the truth of who you are, and you are traumatized generally, if you live in the mainstream culture of planet Earth, you are, because it's inhumane, it's dehumanizing. Even if you've had a cushioned, comfortable life, you watch your fellow human beings being systematically traumatized by the system. Okay, it's dehumanizing. It values people based on externalities. It doesn't celebrate the inherent sacredness of every human being. It doesn't celebrate the sacredness of life. And even if maybe everyone around you, you never see poverty, you never see anything, but you'll encounter some sort of abuse of animals and, of the earth, or some, there's just so much. There's just so much anyway. But another really important aspect of bringing of having truth as the weapon against willful ignorance, okay, and as the promotion of truth through unconditional love, where letting people be in a place where they can safely connect with themselves, because they are now becoming people who live in truth when they connect to their true selves. you know it's also to really be people who talk about and develop a culture of allowing children to be children. you know like I said, most of the trauma, frustration, sadness, pain that needs to be healed, that people carry, it comes from childhood. you know Now, people are traumatized and they usually have one of two reactions or responses to that trauma. Either they will transmute that trauma into healing in a way, like turn that trauma into compost in order to build the life that they would like to build. That's a healthy life, a healed life, a life where they are more compassionate because they've gone through suffering. So now they are able to appreciate how people feel and they can empathize with the suffering of other people. Or they will harden their hearts. The scars on their hearts will not become spaces for the truth of the Creator to come into and for that love to flow out, but they'll become calluses, they'll become hardened, and then they just shut down their capacity to feel for other people. They have no empathy. That's what results generally in narcissistic or sociopathic behavior. But, letting children be children also means that, there's no way, if you're living in truth, that you can say that your trauma made you strong if you then pass it to the next generation. Now, it's one thing to be a traumatized person who is dealing with their trauma and being a traumatized person, and you have your children around you and they experience your healing and your ups and downs and the mistakes you make, but you're still healing. It's one thing. But it's another thing entirely, and this is so sad because a lot of people think this way. Well, I've encountered people who think this way genuinely, and it's just shocking. They say things like, my trauma made me strong. And then they go and inflict that trauma on their children, thinking that they are toughening their children up. Now, those people clearly have not been given a space or the ability to connect to their inner selves, or they have no inclination of the need to heal, or inkling of the need to heal, or they have no inclination to heal. They're in denial, very deep denial. And you often see this with traumatized people. First of all, those people, their trauma didn't make them strong. It made them brittle. It made them unstable. And one of the things that you see with people who refuse to admit that they need to heal is that they will romanticize the abuser that they grew up with. They'll romanticize abusive parents. They'll romanticize parents who were traumatized, but who were not taking responsibility to heal themselves of that trauma. They'll romanticize those people. And then what do? When they display the same abusive behavior, they expect people to romanticize them and to accept that nonsense. And they'll expect, if they're in relationships or friendships, that when they are abusive to people and to their children as well, they'll expect all those people to just take that abuse as a life lesson that makes them stronger, because in their state of denial, they believe that they've been strengthened by their trauma, So people like that, you pray for their healing. And seriously, you pray for their healing. And like I say, you're killing two birds with one stone. They're going to feel it. They're going to go through deep pain and suffering. They will experience the pain that they've inflicted on people. But at the same time, your compassion is able to be realized as well. And you're able to rest easy knowing that you're actually praying for the best for them, because you do want the best for them, but you also don't want to disempower yourself by believing that by praying for their healing, that you're actually acquiescing to their abuse. So, hold space for yourself, give yourself the space to become your true, authentic self. Have your boundaries up. It's not cruel to have your boundaries up, because when you are able to heal and be in a state of peace, so you can recalibrate your system from the fight, flight, or fawn or freeze mode that it was in because of your trauma, you then are able to be that much stronger for the other people who you need to hold space for, because that space needs to be protected, because the system wants people traumatized. It wants people at a low vibration because they're much easier to control and manipulate when they're in that low vibrational state. So be the truth that you want to see in the world. Thank you. Bye.